See, the problem is we're still having political conversations when the battle we're in is a spiritual one.
What this person is doing is really just doing the work of white supremacy, conservatives, and the ultra rich. What this person just said, when they detach what's going on from very much so natural physical context and the psychological and physical warfare that's going on, because to deprive people of food and resources is very much so violence. Okay. But what this person is doing is just the work of white supremacy. They're detaching something from its actual context. They are attaching it into the esoteric, something being spiritual, right? Instead of calling it what it is, which is an actual, what's going on is a byproduct of a series of thoughts and positions that people with power and money and control have. And those thoughts and positions are causing them to act in a way and to use their money, their power to control and to harm others. It's not spiritual. Okay. You may be able to call it moral, right? But that's not spiritual. Okay, when you detach what's going on from its actual context, you disempower the average person and the listener from being able to actually do anything. When you put it in a spiritual context, they then have to go to whatever spiritual God, leader, belief system that they have in order to try to find someone or something outside of themselves to fight what's going on. Because when you move things into a non-physical context, into a spiritual context, you then put people into a disempowered and paralyzed position in which they can't really do anything. They got to go call on God to fix it. When really everything that's going on right now is very much so, all of the things are very much so things that the average human can fight. What they have to do is, when you don't have the money, the power, and the control to do it, humans individually have to amass numbers, right? They gotta build community, and they have to build followings in order to then amass the numbers that are required in order to fight what's going on. But when you disempower people and you do the work of white supremacy, you do the work of the rich, and you tell them, oh no, this is spiritual warfare, when it's actually psychological, physical, mental warfare that's going on. Okay? You disempower them. They then you then give them a choice. You have to really enter into spiritual bypassing one, where you do nothing at all and you just go to God and you just say a prayer and that's it. And you don't solve a problem that you yourself are uniquely, perfectly situated to try to solve, right? Because the first thing that you realize as an individual is like, hey, it's going to take more than me to do this. I got to build community. Well, then that means you have to actually do physical work. You've got to find people, other thought leaders who are able to amass followings and get people together to build community with, so that you all as a group can fight physically what's going on. And so when you detach, as I've been saying, when you detach what's going on from its actual true context of it being a physical thing under the physical control of human beings, and you call it spiritual, it, you you shoot yourself and a lot of people, and you harm a lot of people. You shoot yourself in the foot. Basically, is what we say in the South. You harm yourself, and you're harming the masses. So people have to stop listening to people who aren't really qualified to talk about things of this nature. Okay. And they just say things that sound good, that paralyze the masses who listen to them. See, they then make themselves a part of the psychological warfare that's going on, because they then told people that there's really nothing that you can do. This is more of a spiritual matter. I mean, at most, at max, it's a moral issue. But that was more, the moral warfare is still psychological warfare. It's the same thing that they did to slaves. Okay. They detach you from your natural context, your country of origin, where you come from. They tell you your ancestors are demons and things in your belief systems, your faith systems are demonic. And then they give you a new religion that results in you being disempowered. Okay? That kind of Christianity they're teaching the slaves was not a liberation form of Christianity. It was the kind that taught you to obey your masters, to give up your present life, right, to make your master rich. And then you might have heaven. You might have heaven if you properly obeyed them, okay, and you properly submitted yourself. This is what this person is doing. I mean, this person is engaging in psychological warfare on behalf of empire and the rich. And they are misleading you to believe that what they're saying is truly correct. But the psychological result in each person is that they are now paralyzed. What can you do about spiritual warfare? You can pray and go ask whatever egregore, whatever God you believe in. You can go ask them and the angels and whatever to do something. But look at where Black people are. I have a whole series that I just put out on this, in which I said Black people need to deprive Christianity of their energy and that God of their energy and their brilliance and their efforts in their faith, because that God is still allowing you to be oppressed. It allowed you to be enslaved. It allowed people to never pay you reparations. It has never, ever dealt with the inequality that exists, although tokens are being created and there are Black people with wealth and money. But as a whole, Black people are not in the financial position in which they should have been, based on being deprived of generational wealth. And what has that God done about that? What has it done? That's why don't even for 1 second, I'm going to put this real simple, just for the average person, okay? Don't for 1 second think this is spiritual warfare, babes. This is psychological warfare in which they're trying to tire you out. Politics involves psychological warfare. Politics involves a series of decisions, okay? And the people who take control of the politics, okay, they take control, like Republicans have control of the judicial, they have control of all branches. The executive branch with the president, legislative branch with your legislators, senators, okay? Your politicians who are writing legislation, that's the legislative branch. They create laws which deprive you of rights. That's what they've been doing. That's a very much so physical thing. That's not spiritual, babes. That's holding the position. All those legislators are bought and paid for. See, the people are going to have to go in and play ball. We as in mass are going to have to go buy our politicians. I've been saying this for years. But the problem is that people don't use the phone in their hands to understand how things work. And so they believe things like this person just says, this is spiritual warfare. Politics is physical. Psychological warfare is very much a physical kind of violence in which people try to convince you of things that aren't even true. Okay, that's not spiritual. It involves, in the end, a kind of morals, right? Your mental positions that you take on whether or not food is a human right, and clothing and shelter are human rights. That's a position. That's an opinion. Okay, it is tied to morality because your opinions are in the end seen as morality, which you then may say is spiritual. But the warfare is very much so physical, so don't get it twisted. Okay? This person, I know they were trying to say something cute, trying to say something strong, trying to give you something, a quotable that made them in a very short period of time look like they knew what they were talking about, but they do not. Dearest ones, everybody, if you don't start fighting the physical fight that is going on, amassing, gathering yourselves together, creating community, seizing power. Because see, that's what conservatives and the rich do. They seize power. Then they control you. That's not spiritual. That's physical. And so people who try to tell you that, oh, you gotta pray and that this is about the devil and the devil is a lie. No, people are liars. Okay? People are deceivers. Okay, this is not spiritual. This is very much so something you all are going to have to accept, that it is a battle that every one of us for generations are going to have to fight. Because this corruption that's gone on in this administration, in the next ones, it's just going to get worse. No matter the leader or the political party or what side of the spectrum that they are on, they're all going to try to be corrupt endlessly as they enrich themselves.